Text 33. Dhruva Mahārāja lamented, I was under the influence of the illusory energy, being ignorant of the actual facts. I was sleeping on her lap, under a vision of duality. I saw my brother as my enemy, and falsely I lamented within my heart, thinking, they are my enemies. Purport by Divine Grace Śrīla Kṛṣṇadāsa. Real knowledge is revealed to a devotee only when he comes to the right conclusion about life by the grace of the Lord. Our creation of friends and enemies within this world is something like dreaming at night. In dreams, we create so many things out of various impressions in the subconscious mind, but all such creations are simply temporary and unreal. In the same way, although apparently we are awake in the material life, because we have no information of the soul and the supersoul, we create many friends and enemies simply out of imagination. Śrīla Kṛṣṇadāsa Kavirāja Gosvāmī says that within this material world, or material consciousness, good and bad are the same. The distinction between good and bad is simply a mental concoction. The actual fact is that all living entities are sons of God, or byproducts of his marginal energy. Because of our being contaminated by the modes of material nature, we distinguish one spiritual spark from another. That is also another kind of dreaming. It is stated in the Bhagavad-gītā that those who are actually learned do not make any distinction between learned scholar, a brāhmaṇa, an elephant, a dog, and a caṇḍāla. They do not see in terms of the external body, but they see the person as spirit soul. By higher understanding, one can know that the material body is nothing but a combination of the 5 material elements. In that sense, also, the bodily construction of a human being and that of a demigod are one and the same. From the spiritual point of view, we are all spiritual sparks, parts and parcels of the Supreme Spirit, God. Either materially or spiritually, we are basically one, but we make friends and enemies as dictated by the illusory energy. Dhruva Mahārāja therefore said, daivīṁ māyām upāśritya. The cause of his bewilderment was his association with the illusory material energy. Jai.
Yeah, that's interesting that he felt offended, but actually, what was wrong with his brother getting the kingdom? There was nothing wrong with that. Well, I mean, it wasn't like they were demons or something. So, but he got offended. And then he was going to get back at everybody, and he was going to get a kingdom better than theirs. But actually, what was wrong with his brother getting the kingdom? So what, I mean, in one sense, of course, the Kshatriya spirit, but I wonder if he's coming to some kind of a conclusion like that. I thought he was my enemy, but he isn't, but he wasn't. They weren't my enemies. It was me, under the influence of the illusory energy. It was interesting.
Mm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just one way to look at it, that I never looked at it like that before. But hearing now how Dhruva's realization is, I thought they were my enemies, but they're not my enemies. It's interesting.
You were a when you were a devotee in the 70s, Prabhupada really tried to extract everybody out of their material life. Don't talk to your parents anymore, or don't do, It was just basically, and that's what he was doing. He was trying to accomplish this because there's a trillion different illusory energies to trip you up. And then if you boil the milk down really, really, really thick, which is what Prabhupada was trying to do, and then it's the quickest way. But, everybody, like it says in Bhagavad-gītā, hardly one knows me in truth, so this is what happens. And it's just another example, a good example of how easily you cannot take the best opportunity. You know, this is just one. You know, he's mad at his brothers or his mom. He wants a kingdom, and then there's volumes and volumes and volumes of other misconceptions you can make yourself accomplish the same mistake. Prabhupada, so Prabhupada gave it. It's basically. I remember one time he said that every person born in India should take sannyas because they already got the truth. So there's no point in wasting any time doing anything, other than that. So I think that's the point is that there's a quick, serious way to do it if we follow the spiritual master very attentively, or we can take the longer. Because I don't know if Dhruva Mahārāja I don't know if that was 30,000 years or whatever it's going to be, or regular years. If that was 30,000 years of the demigods, he has to wait.
Well, just the lamentation that he didn't follow his spiritual master's advice. I mean, we remember, he was in a 5-year-old body. But again, like Prahlad Maharaj being in a very young body, he was a pure devotee since birth, but his father was a big demon. So, doesn't matter the age so much. But after he had done all that austerity, it was like, when we heard that, remembering Śrīla Prabhupada. And it was, who was it again? Who was the one that lived in France?
Oh, Yogeshwar.
Yogeshwar. And so, when they were very young and they had their experiences with Śrīla Prabhupada, and then they relate them. But what he did in this more recent one was he took the knowledge and more of his ripeness in Krishna consciousness and applied it to looking at it from another angle of vision. An incident, let's say, with Śrīla Prabhupada. And so it was just seen from a different angle. And I'm just thinking like Dhruva Mahārāja, when he got so upset, this was prior to his great austerity. And so, of course, after you've done it, you come to a conclusion, you thought you wanted this, but actually you didn't. You've learned something greater.
Yeah, but the point was that it was the illusory energy, not the particular thing, really. I mean, in his case it is. But the illusory energy, the example is the illusory energy is there to trip you up. And even, here was the most pure devotee. He's a Mahajan today, even. Yeah. Narada Muni was giving him this advice, and he whimsically, in a sense, wait a minute, no, I want the kingdom. But then he realized, oh, wow, the goal of life was offered to me, and you gotta watch out, for that too. We do.
Yeah.
So the instruction Narada gave him was to go home. And later, on you can perform austerities and things, but now just go home. That was the instruction?
Well, he had already gotten the benediction that he was going to go from Vishnu, or Krishna, that he was, rule the pole star and, all that.
Oh.
We already read that, right?
He got that benediction?
Yeah, remember Lord Vishnu appeared before him.
Uh-huh.
He gave him that benediction that he was going to live on a planet better than Lord Brahma. It's going to be an eternal planet.
Okay, so what was he lamenting about?
Function.
He was lamenting that Narada Muni that he should just become self-realized. Isn't that what it was? Yeah, it's been a week or so, but I think that was the point, was that he could have immediately gone back to Godhead instead of, getting this kingdom that's practically almost just as good, but it isn't, back to Godhead. In one sense, he got an eternal planet.
He was lamenting that even though he had darshan with Lord Vishnu, he had darshan. That because within his heart, he asked for the kingdom rather than to go home, back to Godhead. He still wanted the kingdom, even though it's like that's the whole reason he wanted to see Lord Vishnu, was to get a kingdom. So he was lamenting when he realized, oh, what a fool I am. What do I want with a kingdom? I could have gone home.
We read, recently, there was a statement in one of these purports last week or the week before that he could have gone back to Godhead immediately or something, That was possible, but because of the force of this desire to begin with, he missed it. He's going to go back. He's promised to go back. But now he's got to rule this kingdom for, and he won't be challenged, and he'll perform great sacrifices that will be great for everyone. But then he realized he could have just went back, And then he goes back. But then I could have went back now. But the point was that it's the illusory energy that basically did it. When you look at his situation, it's really another situation like Bhishma or Arjuna, they're playing a role because this benediction is so great. It's he's going back nonetheless, but it's all, it's kind of like that when Bhishma, came to, because Krishna wanted to fight with somebody, and he didn't really break the vow on purpose. He did it because Krishna's desire was, he didn't take the vow. And Arjuna's fighting, because this pastime is meant for him to do this. And, Krishna Prabhupada gives that confidential knowledge of what's really going on. That Arjuna didn't have to ask Krishna to speak the Bhagavad-gītā, but it was done for this age. So I think it's kind of like that, but it's a warning to us that the illusory energy, we're taking a human form of birth, and like that question Vishnu John asked in the room there in L.A. Why didn't Bhaktivinoda Thakur finish it? And we left it for you to finish, but don't waste time. Take one life. It's no matter what the scripture says. Maybe you'll get a rich birth your next life or a high Brahmin family. There's still risk. Maybe you won't. Maybe something like this will happen, and you'll like Mahabharat or like Bharat. Became a deer. You could become. Just as you die, a little chipmunk could fly in front of you, and you become a chipmunk. Become a rich family. Prabhupada just mentioned, there's, it's risky. Do it now. And probably Dhruva was thinking the same thing. Wow, I got this 30,000 year benediction or whatever it was, but it's risky. Something could happen. But generally, we're not worried about that. I was like, I heard one devotee said, I don't have to worry because Prabhupada initiated me and he'll never go back to Godhead till I go. So he takes me back. That's asking for it.
Good points. Really good points. Thank you. Nice.
Your turn.
Oh. Okay. 34? 34?
Text 34.
Okay, here we go. 34. Okay. Jai Śrīla Prabhupada. It's very difficult to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but in my case, although I have satisfied the Supersoul of the whole universe, I have prayed only for useless things. My activities were exactly like treatment given to a person who's already dead. Just see how unfortunate I am, for in spite of meeting the Supreme Lord, who can cut one's link with birth and death, I have prayed for the same conditions again. Sometimes, Prabhupada's purport, sometimes it happens, a pure devotee engaged in loving service of the Lord desires some material benefit in exchange for this service. This is not the proper way to discharge devotional service. Out of ignorance, of course, sometimes a devotee does so, but Dhruva Mahārāja regrets his personal behavior in this connection. I was just thinking about, there's a little anecdote about the woman that was collecting firewood, and she had it on her forehead, and she was trudging along the forest path, and it slipped off. And she was, oh Krishna, what am I going to do? She was tired, it was a big heavy load. Oh Krishna, please help me. And Krishna actually appeared before her and said, and was ready to grant anything that she wanted. So she said, oh please help me, put this back on my head so I can take it back to the village to the fire. Just put this firewood back on my head, please help me. So usually, I see when that story comes up, people kind of snicker, what a fool she was. Which is kind of like what Dhruva's doing here. What a fool I am. I could have had whatever. But I was looking at that little anecdote a little differently a while ago, and I was thinking, just look at it from a different perspective. She's calling out to Krishna, which means she's a devotee of Krishna. And that may have been her service, was to carry that firewood for whatever. She was engaged in service. So to have that put back on her head was not like some horrible thing. She just wanted to do her service, engage in service to Krishna. I mean, that's just one way to look at it. So I'm looking here at Dhruva, and he's lamenting, but actually when he does this planet thing, he's going to be doing service.
Mm-hmm.
He'll be engaged in serving Krishna. He won't forget Krishna. He'll be engaged in service. So just different ways to look at this, And when you think about that verse, Lord Chaitanya, what is it from the Shikshastika? Life after life. Just, I don't care if I take birth again, just life after. It's a mood. It's a certain mood. So Dhruva's lamenting here, but there's another mood that's possible. I'm wondering if he gets there.
Well,
if he gets it.
She's properly situated. She's not doing austerity for a benediction. She's doing, like you said, she's doing her service, she's having difficulty with Krishna, please help me. And he helps her.
That's all she wanted was
and
to engage
she could,
in
this
his
pastime could have taken place in Goloka Vrindavan.
Yeah.
So his was like, on a material platform. Hers could have been either place. Yeah.
I don't have enough information for
I mean,
that, but
I'm
that's
sure
a different way to look at it. That's a way to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could have been.
It could, they probably have firewood in Goloka Vrindavan. Just like,
Okay, here we go. This one's, the purport's a little longer. It's text 35. Because of my state of complete foolishness and paucity of pious activities, that means scarcity, paucity. I don't know if that's how you say it or not, but means scarcity of pious activities. Although the Lord offered me his personal service, I wanted material fame, name, and prosperity. My case is just like that of a poor man when he has satisfied a great emperor who wanted to give him anything he might ask, out of ignorance, asked only for a few broken grains of husked rice. Prabhupada's purport. In this verse, the word svarajam, which means complete independence, is very significant. A conditioned soul does not know what complete independence is. Complete independence means situation in one's own constitutional position. The real independence of a living entity, which is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is to remain always dependent on the Supreme Lord. Just like a child who plays in complete independence, guided by his parents who watch over him. The independence of the conditioned soul does not mean to fight with the obstacles offered by Maya, but to surrender to Krishna. In the material world, everyone's trying to become completely independent simply by fighting against the obstacles offered by Maya. This is called the struggle for existence. Real independence is to be reinstated in the service of the Lord. Anyone who goes to Vaikuntha planets or Goloka Vrindavan planet is freely offering his service to the Lord. That is complete independence. Just contrary to this is material overlordship, which we wrongly take to be independence. Many great political leaders have tried to establish independence, but due to such so-called independence, the people's dependence has only increased. A living entity cannot be happy trying to be independent in the material world. One has to surrender, therefore, unto the lotus feet of the Lord and engage in his original eternal service. It's interesting, Prabhupada uses the words dependent and independent when usually we see the word control, to try to control the material energy. But here Prabhupada uses the word become independent. I guess independent of the influence of the obstacles, Maya, which would be like to try to control the illusory energy, become independent. But I've never seen him use the word dependence and independence. Dhruva Mahārāja regrets that he wanted material opulence and greater prosperity than that of his great-grandfather, Lord Brahma. His begging from the Lord was like a poor man's asking a great emperor for a few grains of broken rice. The conclusion is that anyone who is engaged in loving service of the Lord should never ask for material prosperity from the Lord. The awarding of material prosperity simply depends on the stringent rules and regulations of the external energy. Pure devotees ask the Lord only for the privilege of serving him. This is our real independence. If we want anything else, it's a sign of our misfortune. Jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Only for the privilege of serving him.
That's our real independence.
And anything our misfortune. A sign of our misfortune, yeah. All right.